Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Friday's, yes, Friday's edition of the dceu Daily. So who is going to direct the Joker 2 movie, the Joker sequel? Now, we all assumed it would be Todd Phillips, but let's read this out. Now, I don't know what to call this. Is it a memorandum, something they put out when a film's about to be in development? I don't know, but this is what is going around on Twitter. Joker 2, feature film, joint effort. Is that the production company? Is that what they're calling the film? I don't know. 4000 Walnut Boulevard, Building 90, Burbank, CA 91522. Status, active development. Producer, Joseph Garner. Martin Scorsese, I think Martin actually produced the first film as well. Emma Tillinger-Koskoff. Mark Schoon, writer-producer, Todd Phillips. So, this is very interesting. Writer-producer, Todd Phillips, but he's not down as a director. Now, this could have been a mistake, that they just may have omitted the fact that he's actually down to direct it as well. But if Todd doesn't want to direct this and he's too busy, or for any other reasons, who could direct it? Now, I think the obvious name I've already read out. I mean, look, clearly, I think if we had a choice, Todd Phillips would write, produce, and direct the Joker sequel, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen. But if Todd is not going to do it, who else could do it? I would like to see Martin Scorsese direct it if Todd won't or can't. I think he would be, adding that man's name to a DC movie would be fantastic, and that would fan the flames to the MCU stands and shields, considering he made a big article, was it last year, you know, talking about why he feels the MCU isn't cinema. We'll be talking about that subject later on the dceu Daily. But I think Martin Scorsese would be a great director for a Joker movie. I think Tim Burton could do a great job as well. It'd be great to bring Tim back to DC, but maybe his style wouldn't fit what was done with the first movie. Look, it would have to be someone Todd Phillips would choose himself, considering he's writing and producing the movie. As I say, I expect him to also direct the movie. I can't see Todd Phillips allowing anyone else to touch his movie or his story. There could be a scenario where Joaquin Phoenix acts and directs in this movie. That will be interesting. Look out for that happening as well. So it could be anyone. I would love for you in the comments down below to let me know, who would you like to see direct the Joker movie? Now, also, there's been a few negative reactions to this. People saying, I didn't ask for a Joker 2. It's really funny. We don't ask for many films that we've seen in the past 50 years of Hollywood. Did I ask for a Bodyguard movie? No, it was awesome, no. Did I ask for a Gladiator movie? No, but it was awesome. I could go on, and there's no point. In fact, probably in 1978, no one asked for a Superman movie, and I'm certainly glad we got it. Nobody asked for a Star Wars movie. Do you understand? Now, I understand that certain people are concerned about there being a sequel, because it seemed like it was just a one-off. Now, I've said this before. Now, clearly, I believe in the film there's kind of themes that they deal with that were purposely in there, like the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Arthur Fleck, that they wanted to deal with in other movies. So I think the plan was always for a sequel. Now, Todd Phillips was very interesting, as was Joaquin Phoenix. At one point they said no. Then they said yes. Well, they do have a few ideas for a sequel. And once they said that, I thought, yeah, it's going to happen. But listen, in terms of how the studio feel about this, and they've greenlit this, listen, Todd Phillips is not being forced to do this. If people like Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips are doing this, it's because they want to do it. And it's not just for the money, I can assure you of that. They're not like that, especially Joaquin Phoenix, as I said yesterday, never been involved with a sequel before. And so it's very special. Personally, I think it's fantastic. So for the people who said they didn't ask for it, don't want it, don't watch it. But I tell you what, this is a movie that made over $1 billion. That made so many people happy. A critically acclaimed movie that won Joaquin Phoenix the Oscar for his performance as the Joker, aka Arthur Fleck. It's a great film, and I am looking forward, I for one, am looking forward to this sequel. It's great. This is what we want. How many of these Marvel movies did we ask for? Are they any good? Are they memorable? We'll talk about that down the line, because there's a big conversation, because Denis Villeneuve has spoken about the MCU, and I find it fucking hilarious seeing all these MCU shields losing their shit. So a little bit later on, we will talk about that. But let's go back to Todd Phillips and this Joker sequel, and if he's going to direct it. It is kind of weird that he's not down as the director as well as the writer-producer, which he is down for, so we have to look for that. And listen, DC fandom isn't far away, so we're going to find these things out. Very exciting. So I expect Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix to be at DC fandom for this big announcement, and it is. I think this could be DC's biggest hit. I think, well, there's what, look, we know in the modern era there's only 2 DC films that have reached $1 billion and made over $1 billion. The first Aquaman film and Todd Phillips' Joker. Now, what we do know is the Joker movie didn't cost much. It didn't even cost $100 million to make. You can put a bit more on it because of marketing and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's the most profitable comic book movie of all time, which makes Joker movie, Todd Phillips' Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, the most successful comic book movie of all time. And that, my friends, is a fact. This is a movie that's led by a classic, iconic DC villain. And of course, they were telling a story, an Elseworld story. So this is just about an average guy who becomes the Joker in this Elseworld. And so he's not the main Joker, but he's a version of Joker. And I think that's great. And a lot of people who tried to say they tried to humanize him, yes, they did. Because everyone has a journey. Even those serial killers you see on the news, they started off as good people. They started off as children. And they had an arc. And they went down this road, whatever it is, and became killers. Nobody knows why. Some people are fascinated in that type of thing. I'm not necessarily fascinated, but everyone starts somewhere. Hitler started somewhere. He must have been a good bloke at one point, right? Again, it's not about making excuses for these people. But looking at Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal, it is a statement about people suffering with mental illness and being ignored. And that's what happens, and people being cruel. And he finds out that his mother allowed him to be abused as well. So there's reasons that Arthur Fleck becomes the Joker. And I don't think that's Phillips trying to make excuses for the character. He went on a journey. That's it. And it explains why he goes there. It's up to you if you want to sympathise with him. Of course I sympathise with a man who's who's looking after his sick mother. I look after my disabled father. It doesn't mean I'm going to go out there and become a psychotic killer, but you empathise with the man's mental health problems and, you know, what he has to deal with in his life. He's had a terrible life. So you understand. Look, you understand where he's coming from, but you don't agree with his actions. He didn't have to do what he did. He cracks. He cracks. And when he becomes the Joker for the first time, when he's on those stairs dancing, he's free from the very first time. He's not shackled by life or its rules. It's an amazing, compelling moment. You know, well done to Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips for that moment, for that movie. So this is an incredible movie. I think this is one of the most, before anyone gets upset, most amazing comic book movies of all time. And I like that Todd Phillips did have lots of Joker references in this film. So he certainly read up about Joker, and he chose Joker because he's popular. Todd Phillips was smart. He didn't necessarily want to make a CBM, but he wanted to make a movie everyone took notice of. So he thought, we can only make comic book movies these days. Let's choose an iconic character. So they chose Joker, and that's why. But he still didn't ignore the history of the character. And I think that's great. The king of comedy and all of that stuff. And so, personally, I think it's a great movie, and I think there's a larger story to tell. Of course, you could leave him escaping from Arkham Asylum in the end there. It's a great ending. I like that. I like that he's not dead, and I like that he lives to fight another day. They're the endings I like For example, they're bringing back Dexter. I bet you he either dies or has a happy clappy ending. Look at Norman Bates in Bates Motel, starring the multiple talented Freddie Highmore. They killed him off in the end. I didn't like that, you know, because they were telling his story, and the character deserved better to be the adult who does what he does, rather than just having him be young and then kill him off. That hugely disappointed me. So I think that was the perfect ending. And I can understand why some people, you know, don't want to see more, but I do. Why wouldn't I want to see Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips give me another DC movie? And listen, these are not guys who are going to give you an empty shell of a movie. You know, these are guys that are going to think about what they're doing. Joaquin Phoenix was very, very focused on the set. And then sometimes he was even snapping at people because he was so focused on the art of it all. That's why I love Joaquin Phoenix. This is why I was excited that he was cast in the role in the first place. This is exciting. Listen, we're not Marvel. Now, sometimes it's right and proper that families and children and, you know, audiences who don't want to be taken to a deep journey get these kind of, I suppose, processed movies like we get in the MCU, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But what Warner Brothers have always done best is saying to a director who's an auteur, who comes up with an individual unique take, here you are, do what you want. That's why everyone was so surprised by the treatment of Snyder, because Warner Brothers in their history would never treat a director like that. But the pressure to be successful because of Disney, to keep up with them, was immense. And I think that pressure made them into the people they became, not very nice. And I think that's what happened there. But this is great. You all complain that you don't want to become the MCU. You all complain you want to see auteurs get artistic freedom, artistic integrity, right? Well, this is going to do it. Another film, continuing from a film that's already done it. And it's going to continue it. And who knows where else Joaquin Phoenix's Joker leads? The Batman? Maybe? Who knows? So for me, this is extremely exciting. So I absolutely want Todd Phillips to do this movie. I don't want anyone else to direct it. But if Todd decides that producing it and writing it's enough for him, and he's chosen someone, I'm cool with that. And that'll be brilliant. Because if he's writing it anyway, the director has to take what they do from the script, and I'm fine with that. But also, it has to be a director who can work with Joaquin Phoenix. And you know, I think you definitely have to be an auteur, and I think you have to be someone very special and patient to work with Joaquin, because this guy takes his art seriously. You know, this isn't Chris Pratt, right? This is a proper actor, right? And he takes his art seriously. And we should be proud at DC Live Action that we've got him and he's ours. This is brilliant. I am so excited about this. Maybe Ridley Scott could direct it. You know, directors like Martin Scorsese and Ridley Scott, I'd be really, really happy about that. You know, Denis Villeneuve himself directing this would be awesome as well. I don't see that happening, but someone along those lines. So my number one choice, of course, it's obvious. Todd Phillips did a great job with the first Joker, and I want him to continue doing it. But if he can't, there's some brilliant, talented directors out there, male and female. It doesn't matter who, you know, how they represent, or, you know, how they're represented, as long as they're good at their job. And there's some brilliant ones, especially on Warner Brothers books as well. And you know, Warner Brothers doesn't need Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan needs Warner Brothers. A great director. He gave us a great Batman trilogy. He will never be forgotten. I'm not interested in his next project. I'll give it a look, of course, when it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray and digitally. But I'm not going to go to the cinema to watch a World War II movie. In fact, the only World War II movie I'm planning to go and see in the cinema, if it's true and it's announced at DC Fandom, is Steven Spielberg's World War II movie, his DC character set in World War II. That I'll be all over. Because I tell you what was it? That musical they showed a trailer of that he directed. Wow, it looks amazing. And I don't even like musicals. So that could be the second announcement that everyone gets excited about at DC Fandom. Steven Spielberg writing and directing a DC movie about a very small-time character most people haven't heard of, but it's DC, and it could involve other DC characters as well. So that would be awesome, especially seeing we're dealing with the multiverse. That could be set on another Earth, and we could see Superman and Wonder Woman in the Second World War, or things like that. So that would be awesome. I never thought that Spielberg would ever do a DC movie, but hey, I would be so hyped for that. So to me, right, and we'll talk about it in a minute, all the kind of disdain for the MCU right now, and all the projects that are being greenlit, like the Joker sequel, you know, for me, the future's bright at DC, and I can't wait for next year. What's happened with Snyder is unsavoury. I don't agree with it, and I am so unhappy that at this moment in time we're not going to get more Snyderverse, but who knows what the future holds. But all I can do right now is respect what Zack's done, because it's some of the best CBM content that's ever been made, and look to the future, and if his stuff is greenlit in the future, there will be no one more happier than me. I could not do a video today and not discuss and react to Denis Villeneuve's comments, the Dune director's comments about the MCU. They have absolutely broken the internet. I think it's fucking hilarious, because I will talk about why I think it's hilarious. Now, I've explained before, I've seen all the MCU films and television shows. I've got all the films, apart from Black Widow, because that's on its way, in my cabinet over there. But I'm not obsessed with it, and you watch the film once and that's it. And that is one of my issues with it. But let's talk about this, because I think it's funny. During the interview, the outlet pointed out that it is contradictory that blockbuster movies are the ones who want to become the conscience against the drift of capitalism. On the contrary, Villeneuve admitted that he thinks that big budget movies are still artistically relevant, citing notable filmmakers like Christopher Nolan and Alfonso Cuarón. Right. Just think of the golden age of Hollywood to see that commercial films can make a different artistic proposal, and therefore political. I have never felt like a loss or an embedment to have a generous budget to do what I wanted to do. Upside down, who said what a movie on a big budget can't be artistically relevant at the same time? I am currently thinking of people like Christopher Nolan or Alfonso Cuarón. When the interviewer cited Martin Scorsese's comments about the idea that superhero films are not cinema, Villeneuve agreed to the former's sentiment, saying that these types of movies have turned the audience into zombies a bit due to its cut and paste formula. I think the zombie thing is so true, because how many times have we seen a Marvel movie come out and all these people go, best movie ever, best, oh my god, it's great, it's great. Even the people who are saying this don't really believe it. And another problem is all these pundits are mostly MCU fans as well. So they're so biased that they shouldn't even be pundits. They shouldn't even be getting first looks at movies. It's outrageous. Anyway, he continues, perhaps the problem is that we are in front of too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. Perhaps these types of movies have turned us into zombies a bit, but big and expensive movies of great value there are many today. I don't feel capable of being pessimistic at all. What's up with Marvel movies and veteran directors? Denis Villeneuve's comments about the cut and paste formula of Marvel movies could allude to the idea that heroes always end up defeating the villains. That's not what he's talking about before the credits roll. However, it's worth pointing out that Marvel Studios has been expanding the superhero genre by blending it with other elements that would make it unique. And basically, this is just a defense. During the Infinity Saga, there was a wide array of MCU movies infused with other themes. For example, Captain America the Winter Soldier, one of the few good movies actually, is a political thriller. So yes, you can't really use that as a defense, because that's not typical of the MCU, is it? Ant-Man is a heist film. Oh my god, they're just deluded, aren't they? Avengers Infinity War pushed the limits of the genre by letting the villain win for a change. Well, Batman versus Superman did that as well. I didn't see anyone cheering on BVS for doing that, but it's okay to trash the DCEU. The trend continued in Phase 4 while also expanding its reach on the small screen. Black Widow is a spy espionage film. It's not really. With a dark family story. WandaVision took a risk by showcasing a sitcom-inspired plot. Why is that a risk? A risk. Copying other Janniers. That's not original. And Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings did a deep dive into mystical creatures while featuring a kaiju-sized showdown in its final battle. You mean like Starro in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad? I didn't hear you all hailing that either. This goes to show that Marvel is making an effort to continue taking risks and not rely on the usual superhero tropes. Oh dear, it's funny because everyone has an opinion about this. You can't scroll on movie Twitter without seeing it. So let's discuss this a little bit. I think that Dennis is absolutely spot on, and I find it hilarious how defensive everyone is about this. How dare you shit on another director's movies? Well, not really. He's not shitting on other directors. In fact, he was very complimentary that they basically brought Chloe Zhao on board for the Eternals, because she is a very good, a great, auteur director. There's no question about that. I don't really understand what the motivation is for Chloe doing the Eternals, because we've seen trailers and we've seen a lot of rising moons and suns, and they look beautiful, but in terms of it being her story, it's not really her story. It's their story. We've seen the trailers, it's the usual gags. It looks sensational. I'm not saying it's bad. And hopefully Chloe's been allowed to do something unique with it. But yeah, he brought Chloe on, Feige, to make the point that they do allow directors to do what they want. Basically, she still had to implement in the movies what he wanted implemented. There's the problem with that. But going back to Dennis's comments, I don't think he's wrong, right? It is a copy and paste. It is a copy and paste. It's literally the same old formula, film after film, right? Even if it's an individual solo film, you meet the hero. There are some gags, there are some sunny characters, there's some fights, and it finishes. There's nothing unique in that. The first time, I'll tell you something, right? Moving away just for a moment from Dennis's comments, I think Phase 1 was the best era of the MCU. Why? Because back then they were still attempting to do proper old-fashioned movies about the movie and about the character. Iron Man, even Iron Man 2, which I don't like, The Incredible Hulk, Captain America and the first Avenger, the Thor movie, the first one people don't like. I think it's okay, I don't see the problem, but Phase 1 and its movies felt like movies. It didn't feel like a phase, did it? It felt like they were making proper comic book movies. And for me, that worked better than what they did later on. Because for me, right, half of the movies I see in the MCU, I do it because it's the MCU and it's out of habit. They kind of got you. You go and watch an Ant-Man movie, you're not going to watch that movie again. Shang-Chi, everyone's screaming about that. People are not going to go for repeat views of that afterwards, right? It's not a classic. There's not many classics. The Spider-Man movies they've done with Tom Holland, they're solid, but you wouldn't go back and watch them again and again and again. And the reason that it's all a copy and paste, he's right about that, is because it makes money. It's a tried and tested formula that works. This is what happened in the 80s with Rick Astley, Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Stock Aitken and Waterman. These music producers did the same music again and again. It felt like the same version of another song. And it was a tried and tested formula, and it worked for about 5 to 10 years. It worked for them and they were making money. And it's the same as the MCU. And it astounds me because this director's made these comments that everyone's so mad. Of course, MCU fans are going to be angry. But don't you know what your own franchise you stan is? He's right. It's just a copy and paste. It's just another character doing the same thing as the other character did in the other movie. And people talk about the MCU like it's fucking Shakespeare or The Godfather. It's not, right? It's a live action cartoon with some gags and some action and some post-credit scenes, some Easter eggs, some crossovers. Then we move on to the next one. And then we do the same thing again and again and again. And now there is a couple of times where they've actually made some good movies. As I say, I think mostly Phase 1 has some good movies. In my opinion, obviously The Winter Soldier is a great movie. Infinity War is a great movie. Endgame, not so great for me. I think they dropped the baton on that one. They dropped the ball on that one. I'm not a big fan. They ripped off another Junior as well, the Back to the Future Junior, even mentioning Back to the Future in the movie. And the movie didn't even need to be 3 hours. Totally trying to create this illusion of an epic, you know, expansive movie, and it wasn't even that. The final act was great. The rest of the film was a total waste of time. So there's a few times that the MCU have made some good movies, but we're talking about 2, 3 times. The other ones are watchable, nothing more than that. So what Villeneuve is saying is spot on. And I'm surprised how toxic the reaction is to what he said. Because it's really funny, isn't it? Because it's everyone's hobby to attack the DCEU. It's a bit of fun for MCU fans and the broader audience. The DCEU sucks. Snyder sucks. And that's fine and dandy. But when these elite directors come after your franchise, you don't like it. You know why Villeneuve and Scorsese are coming after you? Because you went after Snyder, right? That's right, an auteur. They're auteurs, they don't like what happened. Because basically an auteur tried to make an auteur type of comic universe. A great universe, in my opinion. And everyone trashed it. Why isn't it like the MCU? Why isn't it bright? Why is there no gags? Why is everything so dark? Boo fucking who? Cry me a fucking river. Are we better off now with brighter colour palettes and, you know, story narratives? No, we're not. What's better? What Snyder did or what the MCU do? I don't know. I don't know. The MCU works for its audience and they love the way it is, right? I'm not professing that the MCU should change. I think its fans and, you know, mainstream media shouldn't be so, you know, annoyed. And you know that someone like James Gunn's going to come up and say, Dennis, I think you're wrong. Well, of course you're going to say that, James. You're a fucking MCU director. Of course you're going to say it's wrong. But should I tell you why people like Dennis are pissed off? Because comic book movies have destroyed their opportunity to make more original takes on storytelling. There's no variety in cinema anymore. It's blockbusters. It's all about capes. I love capes. I love cape movies. I love superheroes. I love movies. I love TV shows about superheroes. But it's just about them. There's nothing else. Don't you realise how horrible that is for directors and writers? So they hate superhero movies and TV shows. And they hate us, the superhero movies fans and the TV fans, right? Because we've killed their opportunity to tell better stories. Now, capes are not the only reason that the shrinkage of quality has gone. Obviously, the extreme left's political agenda and what they're doing in terms of this authoritarian representation and inclusive rule that they're doing, right? That's destroying the industry and the range of storytelling you can do. But there's no question. You know, if you're a director these days, a unique director, you put yourself through film school, you've got a great imagination, you've got some great ideas. You know, a young Oliver Stone, a young Martin Scorsese, a young Ridley Scott. You know, there's so many great directors, a young George Lucas. None of those guys and girls are going to get their pitches put through unless they're superheroes. And there lies the problem. And this is why these older auteurs are so angry and frustrated. And they blame the MCU because what Disney have done and what Feige's done have created, as Dennis said, this copy and paste. And it's actually kind of boring because each movie is exactly the same as the others. And you've got these pundits and these reviewers and these entertainment journalists saying, best movie ever, this is brilliant, go and see this movie. They're now saying that Shang-Chi saved cinema. Shang-Chi didn't save cinema. When the journalists are as biased as the MCU fans, what hope has DC got? What hope has got other movies and other directors who want to do different types of movie? What hope have they got of bring in a bit more variety in cinema. That's what's going to save cinema, not fucking Shang-Chi. So what Denis Villeneuve has actually said is bang on. There is a problem here, and people have to be brave and say these things. Now, lucky for Denis, he doesn't care. So what's been the reaction to Denis? Oh, you're shitting on another franchise, or you're just trying to use your film. Basically, you're using the MCU to shine a light on your film. Oh, nobody's going to go and watch your film now. Well, listen, if you're an MCU fan and you want to rob yourself of Dune, that's up to you. I mean, probably you don't like deep, compelling Lord of the Rings type of movies anyway, if you're an MCU fan, in my opinion. You're not looking for depth. You're looking for a live action cartoon. And that's all they are, and they're successful. It's funny, actually, because people tried to attack Denis over the Blade Runner sequel. Well, look at the money Marvel's made. How much did your movie make? Denis Villeneuve has been nominated. His projects have been nominated, what, 20-odd Oscars, right? You know, at the end of the day, for Denis Villeneuve, it's not about box office. Although he would like good box office, it's about his artistic integrity and his artistic freedom and the story he's attempting to tell. Because 20, 30, 50 years ago, that's what filmmaking was about. The industry wasn't looking to make top dollar. If it made it, it was great. And there were blockbusters for that, but there were still these auteurs allowed to do their things. And if they didn't make a lot of money, they didn't make a lot of money, right? You know, did Bull Durham make $1 billion with Kevin Costner? You know, did some of these other films, but people remember them and loved them. But there's not that variety in filmmaking anymore. And this is what the MCU has damaged. It's great for the MCU, it's great for Disney, but it's not great for artists and the integrity of making a unique little quiet story that people may want to watch in the afternoon in the cinema. That's what's been killed by the MCU. Now, you, the MCU stan, might think that's cool, but the rest of us see why that's a problem. So I couldn't agree with Denis Villeneuve and Martin Scorsese more if I wanted to. There is a problem here, and they see that problem, and they're speaking out to identify the problem, to show the studios that there should be a place for variety here and other directors with something different to say. Because if it's just about the MCU or superheroes, what have we really got? I'm not knocking it because I love it. I'm just saying we need more of a variety. And if we don't get that, we're going to kill our own industry. That's the thing. And then let me bring it back finally to the DCEU. The DCEU has actually given such variety to the superhero live action genre. Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman is so different to Man of Steel. And then Suicide Squad is so different to Batman vs Superman. Then Wonder Woman 2017 is so different to that film. And then let's talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League, not Justice League, so different to Wonder Woman as well. It's got those beautiful visuals by Snyder. Aquaman, another great movie with a great story, a great heart, and great visuals again. You know, Shazam, a great movie for the kids and parents to go and see together. Joker, another, wow, we were talking about it earlier. The MCU haven't got this variety. The DCEU has taken great risks in its stories and its filmmaking. And that's something I think that will be remembered better in history than what the MCU have done, in my opinion. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. You will see me again tomorrow. This has been the DCEU Daily. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Please smash the notification bell. And I will see you again for Saturday's DCEU Daily. Till then, goodbye.